Hello and welcome to the Pinstripe Post, episode 4. I'm your host, Ryan Sampson, but he is the star of the show, Joel Sherman. Joel, how you doing, man?
Doing well. I was at the doctor this morning. I hurt my knee. Hopefully it's not too bad. We'll see.
Oh, no. Are you okay?
Yeah, I still beat a couple of Yankees in a race, even with the bad knee, and that's age 60. No, I think it's okay. I don't think I tore anything. It seems like it's maybe just inflammation. But
Oh, man.
all the fans, come on.
We gotta beat up Joel Sherman here. Hopefully not put him on the IL here.
I post. I'm here for the show.
All right, that's what I like to hear. Joel, we're gonna start with our first pitch here. The first segment of the show, we talk about the Yankees 1, 2, 3 in the lineup of Volpe, Soto, and Judge. Obviously, the Yankees took 4 out of 6 in the last 2 series, winning another 2 with the Marlins and the Cleveland Guardians. This 1, 2, 3, Joel, was really productive, especially in this Guardian series yesterday. To see Volpe lead off the inning with a walk, Soto have a single, and Judge hit a 3-run bomb was just a prime example of, oh man, is this what we're going to see the rest of the season with Volpe leading off and being the top of that order? So, Joel, when I ask you this 1, 2, 3 in the lineup for the Yankees, is this the future of the Yankees? I know Soto is just the 1 year right now, but could we potentially be seeing the future of the Yankees lineup at 1, 2, 3?
Well, it's certainly going to me, be the lineup the rest of the year. I was a little surprised. I think he did the right thing. I thought Aaron Boone would go slower to Volpe at the top of the lineup. The fact he went as quickly as he did probably says a lot about I know it says a lot about how mature they think Volpe is to be able to handle stuff. I think it was a combination of seeing all the work he did all winter, 6 weeks of spring training at the beginning of the season, to believe that he was a wholly different approach hitter this season. I now firmly believe that when and if DJ LeMahieu returns, he'll hit down in the order somewhere, try to lengthen it in that way. Volpe's speed at the top of the order provides something for the 2-3 hitters if he's on base. And it's only a couple of weeks. But I'm always thinking of things like big picture Hall of Fame, small picture awards as I'm going through things. And I do remember last year, the Dodgers had Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman finish 2-3 in the MVP. And the Rangers had Corey Seager and Marcus Semien finish 2-3 in the MVP. And, there is no 2-week MVP award, but I think if there was one in the American League, Bobby Witt would win it. But I'm not uncertain that Volpe and Soto wouldn't finish 2 and 3 right now. And historically, when Judge plays, I think every time Judge has played 140 games, he's finished in the top 4 for MVP. So, if you have 3 players who are going to impact at that level, it's going to be, their offense is going to be wholly different than it was last year. And, it will be hard for them not to win a bunch of games because that's a lot of impact by 3 players.
So, Joel, me and Tommy were discussing beforehand about Volpe getting that leadoff spot there. There's an interesting caveat here a little bit about Gleyber Torres was seeing a lot of pitches Tommy had brought up, and Juan Soto seems to be that when he approaches his at-bat to there and second in the lineup, that he likes to see as many pitches as possible before he gets into that batter's box. Torres was providing that, but he wasn't providing the production that Volpe is right now. Now, it's only 4 games right now with Volpe batting first in the lineup, right? Has a .550 on-base percentage. He's batting over 3. He's batting .400 with .550 on-base percentage, slugging .467 with a 1.017 OPS with 2 stolen bases. I mean, it's only a 4-game sample size, but that's already more production than you were getting from a Gleyber Torres. So for you already said you think DJ LeMahieu is going to go back down to that bottom, middle of that lineup. Are you certain, no matter what, even with Volpe at the production that he has in these small game sample size, that's how it's going to be, the 1, 2, 3?
Well, he's almost an ideal leadoff man if this is a version of who he is, because even if we want to make some leap of faith that LeMahieu will come back as an on-base percentage batting average guy, okay, well, Volpe's giving you that. Plus, he gives you speed, which, he's got to be held on at first base with the lefty hitter Soto up. And you mentioned something at the top on his on-base percentage. what's very encouraging is when players draw walks in front of players like Soto and Judge. Because the last thing a pitcher wants to do is walk Volpe. You know, it opens a can of worms, right? It puts runners on base for two of the best hitters in the world, and it puts speed on base. And so the fact that Volpe is still having mature enough at bats where he's drawing walks while hitting in front of those two guys, I think is really an encouraging thing as well. Again, it's an incredibly small sample size for games in this spot. It's a long season. He's going to have, 10 rough games coming up at some point where all the numbers drop to probably where they're going to be for the season. Think about how we've changed our idea of his season already, Ryan.
Right.
Even now, I know I would suggest Yankee fans not get greedy, right? If it finished at 275 with a 350 to 370 on base percentage and a mid 400 slug, you'd go, what a leap from year one. And that would be great. That means he has a lot of outs coming to him if that's where he's going to get. But, the at-bats have been so mature. And I'll go back to one other thought I've had watching him. And I wrote about it a little bit last year while it was going on. So Bobby Witt, if you go look at his first season, it's not exactly like Volpe's, but it's a little like Volpe's because there was so much good in it, but so much not great in it in his rookie year. And that's like Volpe, right? There's 20 plus homers, there's 20 plus steals, there's the Gold Glove. But if you watched it every day, the low batting average, the high strikeouts, a lot of wasted at bats where he just wasn't competitive. And I kept thinking, then Witt last year made a significant leap, went to the lab, great player, obviously, and was able to fix some stuff. And I wondered, can Volpe mimic what Witt did in year two? And it sure does seem like that. And if he has, then, we're talking about one of the 15 best players in the league then. And we were already talking about that with Soto and Judge. And so to have a 30-year lineup where you would feel that way about it, I think is really something. But I'll say, in the American League, when you look at the length, it was lost a little when Josh Young was hurt in Texas. But go look at the length of Texas's lineup. Go look at the length of Baltimore's lineup. There's some lineups in the league that are going to be really, really powerhouses. And so the more the merrier. And if it starts with 3 impact bats, it's really good for the Yankees.
Yeah, it's a great point, Joel, about the length of the lineup. Really quick here, just to wrap up the Volpe leadoff discussion here. Is this Blue Jays series? I mean, maybe I'm being too, like you said, myopic, or I'm looking too much into each series. But as such a small sample size with Volpe in the leadoff, could this Blue Jays series be another big test for him to see? All right, we're facing a division opponent here. You're going to face maybe a little bit better pitching. Could this be his real opportunity to say, this is the leadoff hitter for the rest of the season? Volpe's going to cement his status there in what we start tonight against the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I'm not mistaken, right? They've already played a series against the Blue Jays this year, which means the Blue Jays have gone to school on Anthony Volpe, and there's going to be adjustments to the adjustment, and then he's going to have to adjust back. And he does seem like the kind of player, worker, and thoughtful player who will be able to make adjustments. But we'll see. Teams aren't going to just let him hit 350 this year and get on base over 40% of the time. They're going to try to figure out what his new kryptonite is. We knew what it was last year, right? Could you get to the top of the zone with really high velocity? And then can you break a ball, starting on the outside corner away from him? And if you could, he had, again, a lot of wasted at bats last season. He closed holes. He's using the whole field clearly so much better so far, 2+ weeks into the season. So everything's kind of about the education of Anthony Volpe. But I think I mentioned this in a show we did a few weeks ago. I would tie Volpe to something like Soto in this way. The Yankees are going to need some of these young players to break through. I don't think Hal Steinbrenner's budget will be limitless. They already have a lot of money in the near future tied up in Judge, Cole, Stanton, LeMahieu, Rodon. And so, I'm assuming that the number for Soto will start with at least a 4, both in total and in annual value, if not more for both. And so the ability to work in a Volpe, Austin Wells, who hasn't gotten off well this season so far, Dominguez when he comes back, Clark Schmidt, Luis Gil. These are important elements to being able to shop in the aisles you want to continue to shop in. Is that these younger players who don't make big money yet perform well, and then by the time they make money, you're done with Stanton's contract, or you're done with LeMahieu's contract, and you're moving towards the end of Cole, and you're moving. And so this is an important part of the Yankees being able to continue to shop in every aisle.
Absolutely. And just finally, I know I said that was my last question, but the sense of urgency that I have felt with this Yankees team this year and the decision making, the fact that they went to Volpe this early as the leadoff hitter, does that mean that there is that sense of urgency? The Yankees knew Gleyber Torres wasn't getting that job done, but you know what? This is who we see Anthony Volpe becoming as a leadoff hitter. Let's give him that shot, because if he takes off and runs with that job, that's all better for us as a team moving forward.
I think it was a decision. I see where you're going with it, Ryan. To me, it was a decision about Volpe and who they think he is, what they think he can handle, and where they think he projects to moving forward. Let's not forget, Gleyber Torres is a free agent at the end of the year. If you want to start to think about, like a long-term role, can we make Volpe the leadoff hitter? Because LeMahieu's getting older. Torres is I would say, again, especially if they're going to keep Soto, I would assume these are the last 162 games of Gleyber Torres' Yankee career, for how much money it will probably take to keep him. So, I think it was more about that, but 2+ weeks into the season, Ryan, they've kept a really good, and you wonder, do you think this because they're winning?
Right.
I don't want to be influenced by it, but I think they've played with very good focus on winning.
Yep.
And playing the whole game as well as possible. And I think it speaks to their strong start, that's part of it. I mean, talent always has to be there, and they clearly have a lot of talent, but I think their focus has been really good.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was alluding to, is the focus, the urgency, where they're making these decisions. It does feel different, obviously, compared to last season. But Joel, let's move on to our next topic here. Oh, that's interesting, and should be pretty self-explanatory, Joel. But as you've watched the Yankees this past season from our last episode, what have you seen from this team that had you saying, "Oh, that's interesting"?
I just think the biggest thing for me, and I hope I'm never too repetitive on our show, is I just think they have to keep this rotation healthy while Cole is out. They are showing that in the short term here, that they can survive the loss of the best pitcher in the sport, the best starting pitcher in the sport, certainly their best starting pitcher, the defending Cy Young Award winner. And they haven't had a start yet where a guy goes like a third of an inning, or the Astros kind of blew up a week of play because they had a couple of starters who couldn't get out of the first inning, or like gave up, they just kept pushing a starter out there because they had to cover some innings, and like JP Francis giving up 8 runs in 3 innings. And that blows out a week. That blows out 10 days. It messes you up. And so the fact that they've been able to go around with the 5, and then that Cody Petit came in and had a bit of an Aaron Small moment out of no place for them, is encouraging, because you probably won't keep going round and round for 12 to 15 turns around the rotation, whatever it will take to get Cole back. And the fact that Petit came up and was competent or better, nobody's going to confuse the Guardians lineup with a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So you better throw strikes against them. Don't worsen your situation. Maybe Ramirez could take you out of the park, maybe Josh Naylor, but essentially, make them earn what they're going to earn. And I thought Cody Petit was throwing strikes, good strikes, and encouraged that if they have another hiccup or a doubleheader, or they want to give some people a rest by going to a 6-man rotation a time or two around, that he came up and did something. They're going to hope that Petit and Will Warren and Clayton Beeter are the answers to what do we do when it becomes you need starter 6, starter 7, and starter 8, because you're lucky if that's all you need during 162 game seasons. A couple of teams are already at 7 starters.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. I mean, the rash of injuries to starting pitching has been incredible to start this season. And to your point, the fact that you did get a start like that from Petit was very encouraging. You know, just to follow up with about the rotation, do you feel still good about Cortez? You know, he ran into some trouble yesterday. But the other thing of the Cortez, I had two feelings about him yesterday. One, it was great to see the old Nestor Cortez of doing that fake pitch and then throwing it. That felt like to me the Nestor Cortez all-star version where he felt confident on the mound to be able to do something like that and pull that move off. But then in the same hand, he wasn't able to get out of trouble when you had a 4-2 lead and you gave it up again. So how do you feel about Nestor Cortez after seeing him again against the Cleveland Guardians? Again, to your point, not a powerhouse lineup, but a lineup that can hit for average and will do some damage when you throw a bad pitch.
I know it's where we are now, where we're kind of like grade on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think the key issue for this group of Yankee starters is stay healthy, because the offense is so much better than it was last year. The bullpen is again showing that in general it will do its job, and therefore, what the Yankees need from their rotation is competence, health, and better. Right? If today I said, Ryan, they're going to use these guys, and on the day that Gerrit Cole comes back, they're going to be sixth in the American League in starter ERA.
Yeah.
Let's make up a number, that 365, 370, whatever that number would be. Would you sign up for that? Yeah, of course you'd sign up for that, because the rest of the team is good enough to support it. And what you're probably hoping for if you're the Yankees is, number one, and most importantly, it's going to be hard to get where they want to get without a Gerrit Cole, because the idea isn't just to get there, it's to win once you get in the playoffs. And Cole's the kind of guy who can, if right, make 5 or 6 October starts at a pretty high level. Then you would hope that at least one of these other starters, Stroman, Rodon, Cortez, maybe Hill because of the quality of the stuff, maybe Schmidt if he ever figures out how to like have a short at bat every once in a while, adds to that, and you start to see a playoff rotation. And I would assume if the Yankees are in it, we don't know the starting pitchers that will be available right now, but you mentioned it earlier. This is an all-in year, and they're going to be all in. And if they need a starter in July, they're going to be busy, because there's probably about 6 or 7 teams that probably feel they're kind of close to all in this year who will be going for it. But I would certainly believe that they'll be there, and that's how you begin to form that playoff rotation. With Nestor Cortez, just stay healthy, and have a 3.6 ERA.
Fair enough. That's a good way to put it with Nestor. All right, Joel, let's move on to Radio Irrational. But this week, we're going to combine it with Hoganalytics. We're going to bring in our PA, Tommy Hogan, who's always got great stats. It's all going to be about the Yankees infield defense, which kind of reared its ugly head yesterday against the Guardians. Let's bring in Tommy. What's up, Tommy?
What's up, guys? Joel, I'm glad you're able to join us today through your Jordan flu game, playing hurt today. So we appreciate it.
Yeah.
You put the post in Pinstripe Post today.
Yes, somebody has to post.
Exactly. Appreciate it. So the infield defense, like you said, Ryan, it came to its ugly head yesterday. It's been a developing theme so far for the Yankees, but we saw tangible results. It affected the results of the game yesterday. So I just kind of wanted to – I've got some stats that are on the surface level when it comes to fielding, and then also some analytics that I'm interested to hear how Joel kind of takes in these analytics, because we know that defensive analytics, they're still a little flawed there. First off, Anthony Rizzo, he had 2 errors yesterday. He's now got 4 errors on the season. He didn't have his 4th error last season until June 22nd. He's 2 months ahead of where he was last year. Gleyber Torres, he has 2 errors. We saw in the 10th inning yesterday. He bobbled the play defense in, and he bobbled that. It wasn't ruled an error, but he's got 2 errors. His 2nd error didn't come on May 7th last season. Anthony Volpe's got 3 errors. We saw him bobble that double play in the 10th inning. Would have been a big play. He didn't have his 3rd until April 25th, so a little closer. Oswaldo Cabrera, he's got 3 errors already. John Birdie had an error. That's 13 errors from the Yankees infield this season. first of all, their team is at 16 errors. That's tied with the A's and the Red Sox, two teams that we know are not good defensively, and 13 of them have come from the infield. That's first in all of baseball. Now we take it to some of the analytics. Outs above average is one of them. The Yankees are 15th in outs above average. They're infield. So it doesn't align with the stats that we see on surface level with errors. So, Joel, I'm interested, do you think the infield defense is a concern hearing these stats? And also, how do you take in these analytics, especially when they don't align with what we see on the surface?
So let's do those one at a time, obviously.
Yes,
so I would be a little, this is one of those ones I probably won't do radio a lot, but there's a little radio here, mainly around Rizzo. He has just not looked comfortable, and I always thought of him, no matter whether he made the play or not, I always thought there goes a confident first baseman. It's not playing that way right now when you're watching him. What are, you hate to even go there, but are there still some impacts of the concussion? Is this age? Is this a bad, sometimes, players will tell you there's such a thing as a defensive slump as well. When it comes to Gleyber Torres, the play against Cleveland with the infield in doesn't bother me nearly as much as the one he threw away on the double play the day before, because that's falls into what I've called annually Gleyber Torres fantasy camp, where instead of making the right play, and again, I am not anti-style. You want to flip a bat, that the ball goes out of the stadium, you want to flip a bat, do 10 cartwheels, crawl around the bases. I do not give a fuck. Literally, do whatever you want. But when the ball's in play, if you're going to do style, the style better work. And that was an easy double play that he made hard by trying to do the flip sidearm. The ball he botches on the infield in. You're trying to do something very quick. That's an error, right? That's just an error. You got to live with those. But the other one, I wouldn't live with. I think one of the reasons that your stats show the Yankees are middle of the road defensively and not at the bottom despite the errors is because, if we put our way back to a couple of weeks ago, Volpe is making game-saving plays with range, which I believe those analytics are trying to cover as well, besides just the plays not made. So I think he's fine. I think LeMahieu, if he's LeMahieu, will help them at third base because I think he is a very good third baseman. Again, but this version of him after another foot injury, further into his mid-30s, we'll see. But I do think he's an excellent third baseman when healthy. And so then the question becomes, do you want to play Cabrera a little bit at first base? Do you want to play Cabrera a little bit at second, as long as he's hitting a little bit at second base? Because I actually think Cabrera is a good defender also. I think he's a high IQ player, could pretty much go wherever you want for a young player. But of all of that, the Rizzo one is the one that sticks with me because I also believe that there's nothing quite like when people tell me, oh, if you're going to hide a player, hide him at first base. That's great until you're hiding a bad defender at first base. Anybody with a long enough memory of the Yankees trying to hide Jason Giambi, say, at first base, that became DH pretty quickly. Frank Thomas, players like that. First basemen save you a lot of runs over the course of the season if they're really good over there. And so that's the one it's the one that has stuck out early to me is the Rizzo one, because I just wonder, is it about something more than just a couple of weeks here?
You mentioned DJ and how he'll impact third base. Oswaldo Cabrera, -3 outs above average, which is the worst for any infielder on the Yankees. So that should be an impact. So you actually believe it's rational. The Rizzo is rational. You mentioned earlier that you thought it was a little radio. Is it?
Oh, I thought radio meant I was agreeing with it.
No, radio means it's a hot take. They keep that on radio.
I think I've been against the hot take up till now. The Rizzo one would concern me a little. I'll tell you one that has stood out to me if I was looking for a real positive defensively. Verdugo's their best left fielder since Gardner defensively.
Absolutely.
He's, and that really plays at Yankee Stadium with such a big left field. He's Verdugo who I thought from watching when he was in Boston was a good defender, is a really good defender.
I do want to just kind of go back to Rizzo here, because you would think he's got the highest pedigree of all of the infielders. He's won a Platinum Glove. You would think that would be the one that you would say, okay, this is just something that's. What about it, Joel? Do you think? Have you seen that? You're like, this could be. Is it the age? You mentioned the injury, but the bat's.
So I don't know.
The bat is still there.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. That's why I proposed it the way it could just be a bad 2 weeks. It could be a couple of plays that he botches that we won't see him botch now for another 140 games. But because we know what Anthony Rizzo looks like at first base normally, and it isn't what he has looked like at first base for a couple of weeks this season, it stands out. Like Gleyber Torres made a bad error in a way that he's made a bad error for 5 years in front of, every reporter and or fan who watches the games. He gets nonchalant, he gets stylish, and he can botch a ball. So that felt familiar to me. So that's why what doesn't feel familiar is Rizzo is such a confident first baseman, such a belief in his arm, in his glove, in his, understanding of, clock. I think people don't recognize just how important a clock is to a first baseman. Can I make it to the bag? Is it a flip? Is it a 3-1 play? Can I make the 3-6? Should I just take the out at first base? Don Mattingly, I was the beat guy for the last 7 years of Mattingly's career, and I never saw Mattingly throw a ball where the ball didn't beat the runner. He just had if he threw a ball on a bunt play to second base, he just had the greatest clock of any first baseman I've ever seen. And I think Rizzo, it's not Mattingly, but he has such a good court awareness. And hasn't played that way for a couple of weeks. Maybe it's just a bad couple of weeks. But what the injury was last year, what his birth certificate says, and these couple of weeks, I am not one to just scream that would be an irrational take to say that let's all out concern. No, but I'm watching it because it hasn't looked like Anthony Rizzo.
So if we could answer the second question now, Joel, and that's what stats do you look at, or what stats does the industry value most when talking about defense? Because there is still some flaws in the analytics there.
Yeah. So I think one of the things you want to be careful about it is that I think even the people who put out DRS daily, before they put out their first one, they always warn these numbers, they're not big sample sizes. They're going to sway widely over the course of the season. So we're not dealing with large sample sizes right now. I think that, like with everything, Tommy, if you're not using it as pixels as part of the full picture, you're not doing your job. All right. But part of your job also is, I know what Anthony Rizzo looks like at first base. I'm watching the games, and the numbers back up what it looks like when he's playing. Right. And so it's good that they're there as kind of a balance towards each other. I still think the numbers can, to me, every once in a while, there will be a real outlier one where it's just like, I know not to believe my lying eyes, but I also know that stat is bullshit. That is not that defender, where he's like a +5 or something. And I'm like, no, he is not. You should watch him play every day. He is not a +5, or he's not a -5.
IKF for shortstop 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's one of those guys, because the other thing that those stats without context miss is we talked about this either last week or the week before. Had Volpe reached the status where if the Yankees had a vote, who could get hit the ball with a 1-run lead at Fenway Park in the 9th inning? Who do you want hit the ball to? I think that Volpe might win the internal vote. With those numbers, there is not a Yankee who would have voted for IKF to have the ball hit to him at Fenway Park in a big spot, because they knew he had a little bit of the big spot yip to him. And that's why you also have to watch the games to go, oh, if all you believe in is those numbers which lack context, you're going to miss where he's making those plays and when. And he isn't on a second division team anymore. He's on the kind of team where you got to make the play in the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. Because if not, everyone's going to notice because everyone really gives a shit here. And you're not going to win all the games you should for a team that's trying to be the last team standing.
Fair enough. Joel, Tommy, we thank you for your stats. And that's a good point about Joel saying that Anthony Rizzo is something we want to focus on. A couple of ugly plays yesterday, and we just hope that it continues to get better. For me, I think Rizzo's that type of guy where he's going to solely focus on that defensive part and maybe try to correct it. And like you said, Joel, for all we know, this could be just a bad couple of weeks here for him defensively to start the season. Hopefully he can get better.
Thing that makes you go, and now we're going to watch it because it's made us go, these first couple of weeks. And the way that the other Anthony Volpe has made us go, this is pretty impressive. And we're going to watch like how long, like, has he grown into a kind of a bona fide star in year 2? So, these are like the first few chapters of a book. You either keep reading or you put it down. What gets your attention? So one Anthony has certainly gotten our attention in one way, and one Anthony has gotten our attention in another way.
It's a good way to put it. Tommy, thank you so much for your stats, man.
Of course, no problem.
All right, Joel, let's bring this all home. Wrap this up. Joel's notebook. I am interested to hear, because I am leaving this open to you. I would love to hear what you got for us this week.
So I'm going to tell you one of my favorite Yankee stories, and I'm everyone who was there will know the player, so I'm going to leave the player blank. So this was about 1990 or so. There's a debate going on in baseball about where the next 2 expansion teams are going to be, the ones that end up being Miami and Colorado. So I was that many years old. Okay, like you weren't even born yet.
Not born.
Yeah, you weren't born yet, but you came into a 30-team league probably. But that's back when it was still 26. It was going to go to 27, 28. And there was the Yankee beat guy for the New York Times when I first started covering the beat was a guy named Michael Martinez. And his office had asked him to go around to the Yankee players and essentially say, where would you pick? Because, like Vancouver was in play, San Antonio, there was a bunch of familiar places, Charlotte, etc. So the way Mike would propose it is he would go up to each player and say, you're a member of the Major League Expansion Committee. Which 2 cities would you pick? And he went up to a player, not a particularly bright one, and he proposed it. And he goes, hey, you're a member of the Major League Expansion Committee. And before he could say another word, the player in fear said, I'm a member of the Major League Expansion Committee? As if like a letter had come to his house, but because he was in spring training, he hadn't received that he was on the Major League Expansion Committee. And Mike Martinez, no. It's a hypothetical. Which then you realize the player also doesn't know what that word means.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So yeah, he then had to kind of work this player through it, that he was just setting something up to suggest you're a pretend member of the Major League Expansion Committee. What would you, which 2 cities would you pick? But yes, that player in just for about 5 horror-filled seconds thought he was a member of the Major League Expansion Committee and didn't receive the letter.
There's no way you're ever going to tell us that player's name, are you?
I'll say this is if you're good friends with like Michael Kay or Susan Waldman, I think it predates John Heyman. I don't think it might have been John's first year because I was on a year before John. But like certainly if you want to ask Michael Kay or Susan Waldman or Michael Martinez or Don Burke is an editor at our paper. He might have been in the clubhouse that day of working for the Bergen Record. Because it was it was right in the middle of a clubhouse, and I watched a player in terror think he was on the Major League Expansion Committee, and if you told me to guess which player might botch it beforehand, this player might have finished high on the list of.
Okay.
So I'm protecting him for the benefit of this show. But
do you happen to remember which city he picked?
No, I don't. I don't know what any further. You know, it's just like you're falling down laughing in the clubhouse. You have a player who believes he's on the Major League Expansion Committee, and then doesn't know what a hypothetical is. I think he thought it was a hypodermic. I think he thought a needle was getting involved in it after that. So, yeah, it wasn't a great moment for that player. Who, yeah, he wasn't a deep thinker player.
Joel, I'm sure you have plenty of more stories like that about the clubhouse.
I gave you one of my best early here, so I'm gonna have to really get into my deep into my treasure chest to figure out some stories as we come along. It's always better. You should throw out subjects like you have beforehand. You know,
I know.
My brain going.
Well, the Marlins and Guardians aren't the greatest of opponents, and for me, I felt like there wasn't something great there. Maybe we'll have some from Toronto next week, because I did want to ask you next week about if you had any good stories about going to Canada about that.
I'm okay. I got one for you already. I'm thinking. I'll think of some more maybe, but I would have had a good one on the Guardians. So remember when they come.
Okay. Former Indians, now Guardians. All right. Yeah. I got you, Joel. He's already got lined up for next week. That's the Pinstripe Post. If you're watching this on our YouTube page, please hit the like and subscribe button. Joel, you're so great, man. Thank you so much for talking Yankees baseball with us, as always. Appreciate your insight, man.
All right, Ryan. All the best.